So hello and welcome to the finale of the Bully Beta map series. We've covered the entire map except for one area, Blue Skies Industrial Park. Well, just before we quickly go on over to Blue Skies, here's a very quick look at the original Blue Balls pool house, which was actually much bigger and looked much more run down and destroyed. I mean, look at the state of those windows. And it also had a side door and old beer written on the side, which is never seen anywhere in the final version. Anyway, unlocked in Chapter 5, Blue Skies Industrial Park is technically one of the last areas that Jimmy will unlock in the entire game, but like with everything else, it is not short on cut content either. So where do we begin with Blue Skies? Well, near the Blue Skies Industrial Park sign, there's actually a door which is never opened. However, if you enter this door with mods, Jimmy gets teleported to a deleted interior and gets knocked out instantly. But if you use no clip and freeze Jimmy before his demise, turn around and you'll actually see the New Coventry Bike Park off in the distance. Now this could imply either A, there were multiple bike parks planned, or B, this is where the original BMX park was going to be located. I lean more towards option A, as I mentioned when covering New Coventry that the bike park interior never matched up with its exterior. And to be fair, neither does this one. So I don't know why Rockstar considered maybe two BMX parks and neither of them matched the exterior. Anyway, near Zoe Taylor's house there is a paint supply building that Jimmy can partially enter due to a missing fence part. But the rooftop of this very tiny building was going to be used, as the entire rooftop and its walkway are actually completed, except for collision. And this was going to be visited in the beta version of Making a Mark, where Clint, aka Henry, wanted Jimmy to get some paint for him. Also, a beta version of this building is actually seen in the developer's portfolio and looks nothing like it does here. It looks much bigger and sports a different logo too, with a possible Rockstar reference because the logo is an R on a star, you know, Rockstar. And we know they love to always reference themselves in their own games anyway. Also near Zoe's home is the only tattoo parlor in the game, which has a few oddities of its own. First of all, it's the only interior that cannot be explored manually, as Jimmy automatically enters the store menu upon entry. It has no store clerk, and more interestingly, for some reason, in the game's files it has an unused Christmas themed track. Now, while all the other stores in Bully do have Christmas tracks that go entirely unused, this one is more odd since Jimmy can never explore this area normally until Chapter 5, which might imply this tattoo parlour might have been placed somewhere else. Now some theories state that it might have been this trailer in New Coventry, since this trailer is just weird in general and something does seem off about it, but nothing does confirm that however. The exterior to Spencer Shipping's warehouse is much tinier than the interior, and it shows much stronger with the back, where the back is much wider inside than out. This also applies to the front interior too, but the exterior for the front looks more compressed to try and keep it accurate to the interior. If there's one thing I've learnt making this is that the team on Bully really sort of neglected keeping the interiors and exteriors the same. Anyway, there is an unused area on top of the Spazz Industries building, which appears to be partially finished. Using mods we can get up here and find out the rooftop is mostly solid, but the chimney and walkways are not, because if you walk over them, you'll fall and pretty much get knocked out. But if you disable gravity, we can walk across here, and we can actually see that there is a unused door on the opposite side, which can be opened. Now this rooftop also has collision, but none of the walls do. And considering there's a rubber band found nearby in a similar room, I think this is where the rubber band would have been located initially. So the Townies Hideout you unlock in Townies Challenge actually has a very weird kind of thing going on with it. Because if you sort of go past the doorway where the Townies spawn in the challenge, you can sort of explore the area a little bit. But when you get to the back, you'll see this really weird kind of green something, I guess you can say it's just a green texture. And yeah, this is weird because this appears in no other interior in the game. And as you can probably guess, going down here it just kind of knocks you out instantly. It's just also so weird, and there's also a door at the back which cannot be opened at all. Speaking of the Townies Hideout, let's go to the one in the power plant now, because the power plant area has a lot of really weird things about it. Namely the fact it's the actual last area the player unlocks in the game, which is unlocked after busting in part 2. But weirdly, when you come to visit this area in free mode, absolutely nobody ever spawns here. There's no Townies or power plant employees or authority figures really. It's like Rockstar never coded anybody to spawn here, which implies to me that either A, this was supposed to be mission only, kind of like Harrington House is, or B, they just never had the time to sort of code in some employees or Townies or whatever. It's also likely the only reason this area is kept open is due to collectibles, you know, like the Grottos and Gremlins card in the Wonder Meat Slaughterhouse. So inside the power plant area we do have some very early concepts thanks to developer Andrew Wood, who had these up on his art station. Anyway, first of all we can see a very early rendition of what looks like the first area of Busting In Part 2, but it's missing the second area however. So this area does look a bit smaller than it did originally. So the Wonder Meat Slaughterhouse looks much gorier because there's blood splattered all over the place, and this was probably removed to tone it down to avoid getting Buddy into trouble. Since the exterior here actually does remain pretty accurate to the final game, just with some minor visual changes to the sign's logo and the colours and that. I'm not sure about the interior since there's nothing there, but interestingly there might have been an unfinished area that Jimmy may have been able to explore, because near Wonder Meats there's a fence that has sort of a bend in it which looks like Jimmy could jump over. But of course he cannot because he can't reach it. Yet no clipping over here reveals most of the ground behind this fence is actually completely solid. The shipping containers however are not, but they're also positioned in a way that sort of heavily imply that Jimmy was going to be able to explore this without any problems whatsoever. Yet if we do relook at the Wonder Meats model, we can see this area was going to be much different, I guess you can say, because it didn't have a fence that close to the building. So this is likely a leftover of a very incomplete area. Also, for some odd reason, the Wonder Meats building rooftop has a collision despite the fact there is no legitimate way to get up here at all. It might imply there was a ladder or something because it doesn't match up with the rest of the building shape either. The next building I have never seen before because it looks like a crap shack that you build in Fallout 4, and to me it looks like it would be a prop to imply a townie lives here. Anyway, as you traverse your way through the power plant, you'll probably know that Jimmy has to sort of, press those buttons or whatever to get to the top of the power plant. When you go down the alleyway, you'll kind of see this blocked off area by a fence. But this entire area was going to be explorable, including the rooftops actually, because in the Busting In mission, if you use a no-clip mod to get over here, everything is completely solid, and so is the roof actually. If you come here during the mission, there's also pickups as well on the rooftops, so Jimmy was definitely going to be able to get up here at some point, likely to have an enemy taking pot shots at him too. Another rooftop here has pickups as well, but it's probably scrapped since these are just pretty useless overall. So the original entrance to the power plant was not going to be on top of the plant at all, but instead it was going to be on this inaccessible catwalk which has the outline of a door but nothing else, which is further backed up by the interior not matching with the exterior and the door's background graphic having the catwalk preview as well. So it probably means the exterior was going to be much different since there's no way to access this without mods. You can still see the outline of the door, and modding your way up here yields no results because there's no collision on the walls or railings. The catwalk itself still has collision however. So the power plant where you fight Edgar was going to be explorable anytime you wanted after you beat him, and Jimmy could explore the power plant by using the elevator Edgar used to go up and down the plant. This was likely removed because there is nothing in this area to do whatsoever, and there is very little reason why the player needs to return here because there's no collectibles or anything worthy of sort of revisiting at all. And I know somebody's going to ask about it, but no, the acid in free mode cannot be triggered at all. In fact, I believe this was a mission only thing, as I did a video on that ages ago, and I could only trigger it in the Edgar boss fight and just gently dip Jimmy's toes into it where he got mission failed. He didn't get knocked out or anything like that, and trying to do the same here results in the same kind of thing. Jimmy doesn't get knocked out, so I think it was a mission only thing. So let's go all the way now to Happy Vault's Asylum, and despite the area only being visited in 2 missions, which is finding Johnny Vincent and Galloway Away, the player can actually access this building whenever they want. Only the 2 blocks A and B however, but you can actually access block C whenever you want. Because when you enter the lounge area, just jump into the door, and the door for some reason will completely collapse and you can just explore block C without any problems. No orderly spawn down here or anything like that, but one interesting thing about this is in the mission Finding Johnny Vincent, if you actually go to this place before finding Johnny, you'll see that the back door to the asylum is open, but if you go through this, it kind of bugs out completely because you'll be teleported to a sort of unused area, but you cannot re-enter the asylum, so you're completely stuck here. But everything around here is also completely solid, like the rocks, the fence. There is just no way of getting out of here without knocking yourself out or reloading a save game. It kind of makes me wonder if there was going to be a way, like maybe a tree or something like that, that Jimmy could use to sort of maybe get in and out of this particular area. Also in Happy Vault's Asylum there were going to be 2 floors instead of 1. Now this was a very early cut because the only remains of this are actually an unused radar which do show some stairs leading up to it. Unlike other radars which can be triggered by no clipping, this one just doesn't show at all. I'm not sure where these stairs would have been located either, so to me this, as I said, is just a very early cut. But speaking of that however, the Asylum's layout may have been a bit different, because if you no clip just slightly outside the Asylum walls, for some reason it has collision, even though it has no rights to. And like other wall breaches in Bully, you can now throw whatever you want outside, and the orderlies cannot get you. That's not to say that you can go anywhere you want, because if you go too far off, the collision ends and you'll just get knocked out, but yeah, to me this might imply, doesn't confirm anything, but it might imply a slightly different Asylum layout. Now one thing many players have found really weird about Happy Vaults is how just completely empty it is, because you can hear screams and such, but there are no patients. This is because during development, Happy Vaults was going to have a lot of patients inside the cells, and apparently during some times of the day they could be found in the Asylum courtyard, and do actually appear in the missions finding Johnny Vincent and Galloway away. Now all of these inmates were cut entirely, but were supposed to be Asylum versions of some of the characters we do see around Bulworth. For some odd reason too, they do have unused quotes of what they would say in their cells, but these can actually be heard if you turn your in-game music off. You can still hear the voices, which makes this extra eerie. Take a listen to some of these quotes and how they're still used in-game.
Please don't take away my blue goose, he's my only friend! So you put one small helping of seafood in your shoes, and they put you in the madhouse! Where is the justice in that?
Man, I've been here for 12 years! I wonder if anyone forgot about me! It's the monkey dance! It's the monkey dance! It's the wonderful monkey dance! Why did I do it? Why? This place is possessed by ghosts. I know it. Nasty ghost.
Now this was most likely removed because Buddy was already in a lot of hot water for its content alone, and the player being given free will to beat up and assault mentally unwell people probably wouldn't go down too well. So on to the final area of Blue Skies now, the completely deleted Sawmill. First of all, in the game's files, specifically the ambience files, there is audio for a sawmill. Yep, that's a sawmill alright, but do we know anything else? The answer to that of course is yes, because if we go to Blue Skies Industrial Park, specifically the small patch of land near the sea and Happy Vaults Asylum, we can see a puff of smoke that appears from absolutely nowhere just casually hanging out in the sky. So how do we know it's a mill? Well, thanks to Rockstar developer David Byrne's portfolio, which has full on pictures of the mill, we can actually see that this matches up perfectly with the two previous bits of evidence. Note how the mill is stationed partially into the sea, much like the area in Blue Skies is. Secondly, the chimneys do seem to reach the exact same height as the mysterious blue sky smoke. And judging from quite a few other screenshots, it does look like that Jimmy was going to be able to visit this area, and even possibly go inside. Partially. As we do have another screenshot which shows a walkway that seemingly leads Jimmy up through a corridor-like area, and another screenshot which shows us a rather detailed area that is much more detailed than most other rooftop areas in the game. I know this isn't a rooftop, but Buddy is pretty much stationed primarily on the ground, you know what I mean? It's not like Grand Theft Auto where you can just go on every single building with a helicopter. In fact, if we take a look at the back of this screenshot, we can see another dark area, which matches up nicely with the same dark area from the front of the mill. If I know Rockstar well enough, this is most likely where a rubber band would have been found, at the very least, probably somewhere around this area. This could also explain why the area is completely boarded off by wood when you visit here in Chapter 3, coupled with quite a lot of unused props that were going to be placed around here, pictures from the cutting room floor. It actually makes sense when you think of it, like Chapter 2 the school gates open, Chapters 3 and 5 you could assume construction around the new commentary area was completed. So the wood explanation could be that the mill finally got around to moving it themselves and cutting it down or whatever. And so that about wraps up the entire beta Buddy map. I really hope you enjoyed this look at what could have been thanks to leftover files, developer portfolios and just general inconsistencies. So thank you so much for watching this video and have a great day.